Hey, how's it going everyone? Welcome back to Keeping Fish Simple. So in today's video, this is going to be the first ever episode of the Keeping Fish Simple podcast. I'm going to try and keep this up once a week for you guys. So today we are going to be doing a Q&A just to start things off. A lot of you guys asked me questions and I feel like the channel's gotten to a bit of a point where we can go through some of those and answer them today. So today I'm going to be answering your questions about me and about some fish tanks, and I hope you guys really enjoy this video. Hopefully at some point we can have guests on the show. If you guys are in Brisbane, and if any of you guys are in Brisbane, hit me up. I'd love to have any of you on the podcast. We can just chat about some fish and have a good time. So I'm going to try and make this video as edited as possible today to keep you as entertained as possible because it's only me today, but hopefully in the future we can get a few more guests on and we'll have a bit of a media conversation rather than something that's as mono as it is at the moment. It's very, very lonely here. Without any further ado, let's get started. So a couple of weeks ago, I asked you guys on my Instagram and on my Facebook to hit me up with some questions, and I've got a few here that we can start answering. So the first question is, why did I shave the most? So I had a couple of weeks off before, and I came back and I had a dirty mustache, and the main reason I shaved that mo was because all of my family and friends decided that it probably looked best if I didn't look like I have a bit of dirt on my upper lip. Personally, I liked having a bit of action up on the top lip. I think it added a bit of uniqueness to the aquarium channel and a bunch of other things, but I just ended up shaving it because I kept getting for it. So another question that I got is, what's my favorite fish? So I've kept easily over, I think 15 different species of fish in the past 5 years or 6 years that I've been in the hobby. I think my opinion on my favorite fish changes quite often based on what I'm feeling, and it's a tough question to answer because it depends what for. So like for breeding, my favorite fish to breed is probably something like an angelfish because I like that process of how the angelfish breed themselves. But if we're talking about appearance wise, I think the guppies are one of the best looking fish in the hobby. And that's because they come in such a variety of different colors. So I think, in my opinion, if I had to round it off, I'd say guppies, and that's just because I've kept them for so long. And I mean, they're good for everyone. Like, they're a beginner fish, but they're also a complicated fish at the same time if you want to get down and dirty with the breeding. So that's probably my favorite fish, is the common guppy, maybe the endler guppy. I don't know, that's a really tricky question. Look, we'll just go with the common guppy. So another person asks, what substrate and what products do I use in my aquarium? So I like to make my aquariums as easy as possible to use, and that's why the channel is called Keeping Fish Simple and the podcast is called Keeping Fish Simple. Personally, I like to use substrates that aren't commercial. So in my top aquarium over here, my angelfish aquarium, I just have sand, and I got that sand from a hardware store. So that's the cheapest you can get. And then the bottom, I actually do think I got that gravel from an aquarium store, but I would have got that years ago. What other filters? I use sponge filters in all my aquariums. I don't think with the size of aquariums that I have that I need anything more than a sponge filter. I recently just upgraded all my filters to bigger sponge filters because I wanted to get more media in there, and I felt like with the quantity of fish that I have in my aquariums, I needed that. But you guys definitely don't need to use anything more fancy than what I have. I get heaps of success out of all of my filters in my aquariums, and I'm just using air pumps and sponges. So that's definitely the cheapest way to do it, and that's just personally what I like to do. And then another person asks, what's the best food for faster growth of guppies? Definitely live foods. Brine shrimp gives you probably the quickest because that's something that can fit in there. So if you can breed up some baby brine shrimp, they will definitely grow quicker for you because there's way more nutrients in that. If you guys don't have that, you can get stuff like Hikari First Bites, and they fit really well, and they've got heaps of nutrients in there, and they're a go-to for a lot of people. I tend to feed, I don't tend to target any specific kinds of foods. I like to keep a rounded diet for my baby fish, but if you are looking for the perfect answer to make them grow quick, definitely use baby brine shrimp. You'll get the most success out of that. And then another question is best food for guppies that I can use to grow them fast. So live foods, if you can use frozen bloodworms, they work really well too. Just feed heaps and do heaps of water changes and they'll grow quick as. There's a video if you actually want to check it out called the 4 tips for growing fish fast. In that video I talk about pretty much everything I know about doing that, and you'll get heaps more success and information out of that. Your 1 tip for having a planted tank is the next question. So I think patience is probably my 1 tip. If you don't have patience in the hobby, you will not have a great time, because everything in this hobby takes a lot of time. From setting up an aquarium, you have to give that aquarium time to actually cycle, and I think patience is probably the most important thing in the hobby when you have your aquariums, because without patience, a lot of people put plants in, they melt away, and then they take them out before they've even started growing. So patience is definitely my number 1. Another question is, what state of Australia do I live in? So I live in Queensland, I live in Brisbane. If you guys are in Brisbane, send me a message on Instagram if you want to come and hop on the podcast. I'd love to have more people on here, but I live in Queensland. Another question is, do you do dirted tanks? This person's asking, I'm setting up a new 60 gallon and I want to do dirted, but I'm nervous about people's horror stories. It's much safer to use a planted substrate, but that would cost an arm and a leg for that tank size. So if you're looking to have an aquarium with lots of plants in it, I've done dirted twice and I hadn't had a lot of success with it. I think dirt is a very temporary solution to an aquarium, because what happens is after that dirt's had all its nutrients absorbed, you're just left with gunk at the bottom of the aquarium. I know from experience that when you take an aquarium down and it's got dirt in it, it's a pain in the butt to clean all the dirt out, because it kind of forms like a clay layer. I think what you're looking for is an aquarium with a fine substrate, like maybe some really small gravel, and then I'd recommend just spending $30 on getting some root tabs, and then measuring out some equal spots for where you're going to put the plants, and then try and fertilize that way. That's a much better long-term solution as well, because if you're going to keep an aquarium for a much longer period of time, you'd want to be able to add more nutrients into the substrate rather than just have an initial hit. So this person's asked me, what's my background in fish keeping? How long have I been doing it, and what made me get into it? So my background in fish keeping was when I was like 13, I went to a creek and I got some guppies out of it, and I put them in a little tub. And then I watched some YouTube videos. I remember watching Dustin's fish tanks as a kid, and that kind of inspired me to get more fish tanks. And then from there, I got a Blue Planet 40 litre aquarium, and I filled that up with guppies, like real guppies this time. The stream guppies died, sadly. But I learned a lot from that, and I bred those guppies, and then ended up getting another aquarium. And then it just grew from there. At one point I had 8 aquariums in my house, and that was when I was in school. And that was much, much easier to take care of, because I didn't have any other commitments. So now I've only got 4. I'd love to get some more aquariums, but aquariums take a lot of effort to maintain if you want to keep them successfully. So that's how I got started. I've been in the hobby for 7 years. And that's pretty much the story of how I got started. I think a lot of people have similar stories to me. I know a lot of people get started in the hobby by having their parents doing it, and then they get grown up around aquariums. And I think that I'm super impressed with how well this community does at inspiring people to get aquariums, and obviously we want to be getting more young people to come into the hobby and start trying stuff out. But that's how I got started, and the rest is history. I've had heaps of fun doing this, and you guys have supported me really, really well throughout the journey. So hopefully we can keep getting more aquariums and getting some more breeding projects out. But if you guys, that pretty much wraps up the video. I've got no more questions to answer. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know, leave a like and comment. And if you guys have any other questions you want to ask, please just leave them down below, and we'll try and sort this out. Hopefully I can get another podcast out to you guys soon, and try and do it once weekly. And also, I'm just letting you guys know, I've just started to I've changed my upload schedule to every Sunday. So if you, I think it's Australian Eastern Standard Time, it's going to upload at 7 a.m. on a Sunday. So you can, I don't know, turn on your notifications for that or whatever. If you guys are enjoying my videos, I know you're going to watch them. So thank you so much for this, watching this, and I'll see you in the next one.